1565 Siege of Malta. This is a solitaire game, part of the Great Siege series by Worthington Games. It is a solitaire game, but also it is basically two solitaire games. It is about the same topic, the titular siege that you see here, but it can be played from two different perspectives. You, the active player, can play all of the knights, in which case you're defending against the Ottoman Turks that are trying to take control of the island, or you can play as the Ottoman Turks, and in this case you're trying to dislodge and destroy the knights and take control of Malta. So interesting idea here. Depending on the side, well, regardless of the side, the general idea is that you will have a set of cards representing orders that you can issue, and there are some orders that are standard issues. Once you play them, they count as expended, and then you have special orders, and these can be used only once in the game, and once you use one of these special orders, it is removed from the game, and it refreshes the regular orders that you had issued. And also, if you don't have any regular orders available anymore that you could possibly play, then they refresh automatically. So these one-time orders with special actions allow you to refresh your cards earlier than normal, but there is a limited time in which you can do it. And also, they give you special benefits. The general idea is that, again, you're going to have a deck of orders representing what you're going to do, and a deck of counter orders representing what the AI does. And so if I'm playing the knights, I'm going to use the order deck, or the order set of cards for the knights, and the counter orders for the Turks. And here I've set up the board, actually, to show you as playing with or as the Ottoman Turks. That's why we have the counter orders of the knights and the cards for the Ottoman Turks. Again, those are those special actions that you use to refresh these other ones, and these are the standard actions. The game system, which you may know from other games by Worthington Games, especially, I believe, and maybe also watch my other videos for the game about the Siege of Syracuse. But the idea is super simple. You choose an order. And again, in other games in the system, you simply choose an order in your head and say, okay, I'm going to give that order. These orders correspond to different sections of a player rate. And again, here you have one for the Ottoman Turks and one for the Knights. You select an order. The difference in this game, different from other games in the system, which you can use the same order over and over again, is in this cycle of actions here. The idea remains that you're going to choose an order. Suppose that I decide that the one attack the Grand Harbor. Again, in this case, I will mark that action here as used. Yeah, I guess the idea is that you're going to take this card and place it on top of the table. As a reminder, I simply like to have the display on the side and flip them face down. Display of cards. So I choose my action. So I'm going to attack the Pearl Harbor. I'm going to attack the Grand Harbor. And then I will simply draw a card from the deck of counter orders and see what the opponents are doing. So while I am attacking the Grand Harbor, they are defending the Grand Harbor. Ah, how lucky. So you will resolve any possible actions or modifiers that you find on the counter orders, and there is just a number of things that they may do. They remove your markers. They are doing all sort of things, destroying your siege tower, they send in reinforcements that will be piling up in Sicily. So there will be effects that you resolve, but again, all important, you'll know what they're doing at that time. So you have your action here, your order that you issued, you have the counter reaction that tells you which column will be used. At that point, you roll a die, apply possible modifiers, and you see what happens here. If there is a number, it means that that side, the Knights or the Turks, lose a combat unit, and they also lose a morale point. If it says minus morale, then that side only loses morale. So that's the general engine of the game. And again, simply by switching who gives order and who gives the counter orders, you can play as the two sides. As for the boards, it represents the area of the confrontation. And again, perspective changes depending on which side you're playing, but some things remain the same. Such as the two sides have morale and they both start at 10. If a side goes down to 0 in morale, they lose the game, which again can be good or bad depending on who you are. Also, if these 3 forts on the board are devoided, are depleted, there are no knight units in there, the knights lose the game. If the deck of counter orders runs out, then the Turks lose, because simply the siege has lasted too long. So actually you can also modify the difficulty of the game by changing how many cards you have in the deck of counter orders. Of course, a shorter deck makes it easier for the knights to survive for long enough, and a thicker deck makes it easier for the Turks, gives them more opportunities to destroy the morale of the opponents. So you always set up the board, regardless of the side, by placing these wooden units that represent military units. So we have also 3 Turkish ships here. There is a box in Sicily there. They represent reinforcements that are piling up. When 3 reinforcements are there, they can be moved here by game effects, and then again the knights can use it to harass the Turkish forces here with particularly powerful counterattacks, again, launched by you or launched by the AI, depending on who you are. The Turks will try to move ships here and also to take control of those 2 locations, because that gives them advantages when they attack the Grand Harbor. They also game effects that will create a siege tower that may go there, and again gives an advantage in attacking that area. Here we have a tracking Turkish ammunition, and that is always used regardless of which side you're playing. It simply means that when the Turks take the action of bombarding Sant'Angelo, they can do it at full strength for 4 times only. After that, there is a penalty, again, good or bad. And then these 2 markers are used if you're playing the Turks, and simply they give you a limited number of rerolls and modifiers. Rolling low is good for the Turks. If you are playing the knights, then you will have these 2 markers here, and these modifiers are active, and they give them again a modifier to the roll and rerolls. And for the knights, as you can see from the modifiers, for the knights it is good to roll high. So this is really the general idea. It's pretty simple. You can set it up quickly. As you can see, you don't have to match, oh my gosh, this marker, where does it go, etc, etc. You shuffle a deck of cards, you place these markers on the board, you prepare your display of cards, and that's it. Issue an order, check the counter orders, resolve the action, and see where that gets you. If you watch my videos for the Siege of Syracuse, you know that I like the system that is shared with the Siege of Malta, but I didn't particularly enjoy the implementation of the system in this game, which I found it just didn't have enough decisions for me to be really compelling as a game. But the Siege of Malta fixes all that. This is a much more compelling game, in my opinion, because you have a fun, simple, intuitive system, and you have a lot more decisions. Well, you have 2 full mini games or light games, small games, each a perfectly legitimate game on its own, but also with a larger range of decisions, especially if you play as the Turks. Generally speaking, I just like the fact that not all actions are equal, but there is a a matter of deciding how you're going to exploit the cycle. There's a moment when you're almost achieved that objective, and then you decide to refill your actions a little earlier, which of course again is a limited resource. It's a lot more interesting and compelling than just choosing from any action that you want at any given time. Because again, I need to do that before they destroy my tower, before they destroy that thing, before they bring in those reinforcements, and so on and so forth. So, more interesting decisions and more decisions to make. The fact that, again, they're not all equal, it's interesting. As the Turks, you have more decisions from the very beginning, meaning if you play as the Knights, there are just some actions that are not available. There's one that's just not available in the early game because you're waiting for those reinforcements to build up in Sicily. Then they come to Malta, and then they can finally attack the rear guard of the besiegers, but that's not going to be available for most of the game in many cases. And then some of the actions are available but not particularly interesting early on. I can attack their ships, but the Turks haven't moved their ships where it is relevant yet. Or I can do something like that. I can move troops around, but maybe I still have all of my troops on the board, so there is literally no empty slots to move them around, or maybe there are some, but it's not interesting to me. So at the beginning, as the Knights, you have fewer decisions. As opposed to as you're playing with the Turks, then you have many possible decisions and interesting choices. I can just go for a quick frontal attack. I can build up my presence around the Grand Harbor to then launch a better attack. So what I like is this, that especially compared to the Siege of Syracuse, that you really have interesting decisions in a context where there's going to be a lot of randomness. I'm playing rock paper scissors against an AI, and is there any way of predicting what they're doing? No, but maybe also a little bit. If a lot of cards of a certain kind have come out, I can hope that it's less likely than they will pull a certain card. But again, in general, I like the idea of not knowing what the opponent does, and I'm still seeing that in different moments of the game, some actions seem to be more profitable, more dangerous, less dangerous. Sure, I don't know when the reinforcements will arrive, but I know the chances are those Sicilian reinforcements will arrive at some point, and I see that those forces building up in Sicily, which causes a nice sense of tension. So those special actions that you can use only once per game, you have 4 of them. It's great that they give you a bonus. There's an interesting decision on when to use them. And I also like the fact that they can backfire, meaning that if I give too many rousing speeches, my men starts wondering, like, if I'm trying too hard, what's going on? That may affect my morale. If I'm too aggressive, then the second time I use an aggressive card, or the third or the fourth, as the Ottoman player, that may backfire. I like the fact that those special actions, they're good, but if you overuse them, then they can also come with negative effects. So the game really packs quite a punch, especially playing as the Ottomans. Quite a punch in such a small, compact package. This is a game that you can play in under an hour. Again, yes, there's randomness, but to me it's the kind of like almost impartial randomness, because you're going to roll so many dice, you're going to draw so many cards, there are going to be so many game effects. That randomness is going to kind of follow a curve overall, and so it's unlikely that a game is going to be thrown out of all things that make sense because of one unlucky card pull or one unlucky die roll. So there's randomness, but there are interesting decisions. There is a narrative, definitely. There is a structure in the experience. You see history come alive in a game that you can set up quickly and easily. You can play quickly. It's packed with interesting decisions, and also has like really good production values. It looks really good. There are a couple of things, little typos here and there, maybe one inconsistency, like one card, one order card is called differently from how the way the order is called on the player aid. A couple of minor things here and there that could have been probably prevented with more proofreading, but overall the game looks good, it feels good, definitely the production enhances the experience. So overall, I had a really great time playing 1565, the Siege of Malta, and I'm happy to recommend it to anybody who's looking for a fun, quick, yet compelling solitaire game.